Hey there, welcome. So, do you ever feel like your English sounds, well, a little too much like a textbook? Yeah, we've all been there. Today, we're going to dig into some awesome material to find the kind of vocabulary that'll help you sound way more natural in your everyday chats. So, what's the big secret?
Okay, so let's get right to it. What's the number one thing you really need to speak English naturally? You might think it's perfect grammar, right? Or maybe a flawless accent? Well, according to the source material we're looking at, it's actually something totally different. Boom, there it is. According to a great teacher, Vanessa, the secret is all about vocabulary, but not just any vocabulary. It's about using the real words that real people actually use. It's not about sounding super academic or complex, it's about using the common stuff, the natural stuff. So that's exactly what we're going to do in this explainer. We're going to pull out a bunch of those essential everyday phrases. You can think of this as your own personal toolkit for pretty much any conversation. You know, from the small stuff to the really big, meaningful chats. All right, first up, everyday chores. We're going to start where most of our days do, at home. I know, chores aren't exactly thrilling, but there's something we all do, right? And that makes them a perfect place to start building some of that natural-sounding vocabulary. Okay, let's just run through some of the absolute basics. These are the phrases you'll hear all the time for things we do every single day. For instance, you don't really say, arrange the sheets on my bed, you just say, make the bed. And you don't put on your clothes, you get dressed. Simple, right? Same thing with pack a lunch. And when a room is messy, you tidy up. All right, let's dive a little deeper into a chore that we all know. Laundry. It's actually a really great example of how a few simple, natural phrases can describe a whole process from start to finish. So check this out. The first step is to throw clothes in the washer. Now, what's interesting here is that word throw. It doesn't mean you're angry at your clothes or anything. It just means you're doing it quickly, casually. It's that kind of subtle, everyday language that makes all the difference, and it's what stops you from sounding like you're reading from a script.
And let's be real for a second. We don't always want to do our chores, do we? This brings us to a fantastic idiom, to drag your feet. It's the perfect way to describe that feeling of procrastinating, of putting something off that you know you have to do, but you just really, really don't want to.
And this quote from the source material just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? The second you know you have to do a chore, like folding laundry, suddenly anything else seems way more exciting. Like, ooh, maybe I should alphabetize my spice rack right now. That, right there, is dragging your feet.
Okay, section 2. Real-life conversation starters. Enough about chores. Let's move out of the house and into the world. Now we're going to see how this kind of natural vocabulary works when we're talking to people about life.
And what better place to start than with love and relationships? I mean, this is where language gets really fun and colorful. English is packed with idioms for this stuff. You know, those phrases that don't mean exactly what they say. They're like the secret ingredient for showing deep feelings and adding real personality to what you're saying.
And here's a classic example. Butterflies in my stomach. It's just the perfect way to talk about that nervous, excited, kind of fluttery feeling you get when you're around someone you like. It paints such a better picture than just saying, I was nervous, right? Okay, so from love, let's switch gears to something else that's pretty much always on our minds, money. And you know, the way we talk about money says a whole lot about who we are and what our habits are like.
So, which one are you? A saver or a spender? These phrases really show the two extremes. If money burns a hole in your pocket, you just can't wait to spend it. It's like you have to get rid of it. But on the other hand, if you're frugal, you're really careful and smart with your money. See? These little phrases basically sum up a whole money philosophy.
And finally, let's get into work and feelings. Because, let's face it, work can be stressful, and it's so important to know how to talk about how you're feeling. And here's a huge one, not just as a phrase, but as life advice. Don't bottle it up. Just picture it, trapping all your emotions inside a bottle. The idiom is telling you to do the opposite of that. Let it out. Talk about what's going on. And this is what you say after you've taken that advice. Once you've talked to someone and shared what's bothering you, you can say this. Thanks for letting me get that off my chest. It's such a great phrase because you can almost feel the relief, like a physical weight has been lifted.
All right, time for our last section. This is where we put it all together. Think of these idioms as the real secret sauce. They're the kind of phrases that take you from sounding like an intermediate speaker to sounding truly natural and comfortable. So here it is, your fluency toolkit. Let's do a quick recap of some of the best ones. Pull your own weight.
That means do your fair share. Burn a hole in your pocket. You're dying to spend that money. On the edge of your seat, you're super excited and can't wait to see what happens. Get something off your chest. You finally said something that was bothering you. And my favorite, when you know, you know. It's just that perfect phrase for when you're absolutely certain about something or someone.
And there you have it. Now you have the tools. When you start using these kinds of phrases for everything from chores to love to money, you're not just learning vocabulary anymore. You're learning how to actually communicate in a way that's real, that's relatable, and that's totally natural.
And with that, we're at the end. But I've got one last question for you to help you put all this into practice. Using that great idiom we learned, tell me, what's the one chore you always drag your feet on? I'll go first. For me, it is 100% putting away clean laundry. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me.